Hey everyone, Tom and I are here in Nashville. We are at the world famous Ryman Auditorium. We're going to talk about kidney cancer combinations, but first, let me tell you a little bit about the Ryman Auditorium.
Far away.
Ryman Auditorium is probably 100-ish years old. It was actually the original home of the Grand Ole Opry. Grand Ole Opry is not a building, it's a variety act, right? It's now out in Opryland. It's terrible. There's a roller coaster and stuff like that. It's awful. The Grand Ole Opry moved out of this building in, I think it was maybe the late 70s. It sat dormant, almost got torn down, revitalized about 25 years ago. My favorite place in the world to see a show. It's an old church. It's unbelievable. If you haven't been, please come. Anyway, we're talking about combinations, just like musical instruments combine for music.
Kidney cancer.
Kidney cancer drugs can combine. There's been some press releases, so let's talk about combinations broadly speaking in RCC.
So I think the first thing is that we haven't been able to combine different targeted therapies together that successfully. In the past, I know there's lenvatinib and everolimus. We saw a randomized phase 2 recently that was positive for that. But historically, we've been combining PD-1 with VEGF targeted therapies or immune checkpoint inhibitors together. And there have been 2 press releases, both with belzutifan recently, with a combination, the first with lenvatinib in heavily pre-treated patients, belzutifan and lenvatinib versus cabo. The press release is positive. And there was also a positive adjuvant study of belzutifan plus adjuvant pembrolizumab versus pembrolizumab alone. So now we are going to have essentially doubling down on that VEGF pathway. We've got some positivity there. And the question, I guess, is where do we go next with this? And we saw some triplet data for len, belzutifan, and pembrolizumab. Cristina Suarez presented that data. Brian, do you want to tell us a little bit about what that data shows?
So this was Merck's Keymaker 03A study. It was a randomized phase 2 frontline kidney cancer, len-pembro control as a standard, and then various triplet options. Len-pembro belzu, len-pembro with a LAG-3 inhibitor, a pembro-belzu TIGIT inhibitor, and a len-pembro CTLA-4 inhibitor, if I have all that correct. 60 to 80 patients. First of all, len-pembro did really well as a control. Len-pembro belzu looked especially promising, not in response rate, but in PFS. Belzutifan is not necessarily a high response rate drug, so maybe that's not surprising. And maybe you're going to see delayed effects, and there was a PFS signal there. Again, randomized phase 2, but I think exciting because that is an arm of the 012 study, which is Merck's frontline triplet study, len-pembro, len-pembro belzu, len-pembro CTLA-4. In the 03A study I was talking about that Cristina presented, the len-pembro CTLA-4 arm didn't really perform as well. It didn't seem to be robust.
But isn't that all about OS? And are you going to get higher responses? Is that really the way? I mean,
it's probably not the best way to evaluate a CTLA-4 containing regimen. I think the median follow-up was in the 2-year range. I don't quite remember. So there was some follow-up, but it wasn't.
If the randomized phase 3 is to be positive, it's not going to have 10 years follow-up. It's going to have similar data, isn't it?
It's going to at least have first data at a similar time
point.
More
robust OS because there'll be more patients.
Correct.
Brian, I'm not a great fan of LAG-3 or TIGIT in this disease. We saw some data with Zanza, with TIGIT back at ASCO.
LAG-3.
Sorry, LAG-3 back at ASCO. We've heard the Roche program for LAG-3 and TIGIT. Both that's closed down because of futility. We now seen some data with the MSD program, the Merck program, with LAG-3 and TIGIT in combination with lenvatinib essentially, and that's also been pretty negative, actually very negative. Is it not time to say that actually this second generation of immune checkpoints hasn't been that impressive? You know, we did study with OX40 back in the day. We've had CSF1R. I can keep going.
We haven't been able to successfully build on checkpoint inhibition. I'll agree with you. Aside from Ipi-Nivo, obviously, I'm not convinced. All of these have in common that they have combinations with targeted therapy.
If one was active, we'd know by now. There's been a deafening silence for 10 years, and now we've got a randomized trial showing the 2 are the most promising, absolutely nothing. Really worrying from my perspective.
I think building on Ipi-Nivo may be a better strategy, or those mechanisms, than building on IOTKI, but we'll see. I don't know. But I agree, it's been disappointing today. There's no question about it.
Disappointing. Great.
What else about combinations? A lot of studies coming. Last thing to mention, in the refractory setting, there are, you can imagine with len-belzu being positive, we're going to see a lot of these VEGF-HIF combinations. Question about what is the control arm? Does belzutifan alone, is that an adequate control arm? Is PFS adequate? We haven't seen the 011 data.
There's a second generation of HIF inhibitors. There's casdatifan as well.
Casdatifan has a trial in this setting that's public.
With cabozantinib versus cabozantinib alone. That's a nice trial design. Brian, do we need to see OS for combinations. So
Do
the
we
Len,
need it? Yeah.
So the Len Bell combination. Do you need to see OS? If not, can you not get away with just sequencing them?
I think with any combination, be it second line doublets or front line triplets, I think we really do need to see OS in the absence of some gaudy non-OS endpoint, like a PFS advantage of a year, response rate that's 20% more, CR rate that's 10% more, something like that. If there's gaudy non-OS numbers, maybe you'll have to think about it. If there's OS, for sure. But I think we really want to see OS, right? Especially because I think these combinations are still non-curative, at least in the refractory setting.
But if in the refractory setting your response rates are much higher, and if you've got much longer PFS, I think most people are going to say, keeping control of the cancer. The Americans all say to me, keep control of the cancer.
Maybe not all the Americans.
No, many.
Then I think it's a matter of toxicity.
Europeans are more purist in the OS issue. I do believe that.
That's true.
I do believe
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But anyway, lots to come in this setting. A lot of exciting combinations. I think we're finally starting to get some momentum in combinations in kidney cancer.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks.